Hey, Motorman here, and today I'm going to show you how to improve your riding skills using your car or your truck or any four-wheel vehicle. So come on, let's take a ride. I'm sure most motorcyclists who've been riding for any length of time have figured out that being a cautious and defensive motorcycle rider has actually improved your car driving or your truck driving, whatever four-wheel vehicle you have, because you tend to look at things that maybe you never paid attention to before while driving the car. But since you've been riding a motorcycle, you know that there's certain things, like a car that might pull out, that red vehicle there could pull out in front of me, so you want to be cognizant of that fact. But in addition, we can use the four-wheel vehicle to help us ride a little bit better, to improve our skills while we're driving our car. Now, I didn't invent this tip. I got this from Kyle Wyman, who recently won the King of the Baggers. In fact, he won several of those races, and he's a MotoGP champion, so it pays to listen to the best of the best. And he took us for a ride in a van, actually, at a racetrack, and showed how these techniques work and how you can use them to improve your riding skills. For a quick example here, look 12 seconds ahead of your path of travel. In this decreasing radius turn, I'm turning my head and eyes and looking only where I want to go, just as I would on a motorcycle. As I approach this set of curves, I'm going to use a little trail braking, so I'm going to press on the brake very slightly until I get to the apex, neutral, throttle, accelerate, and once again for this turn, a little bit of trail braking. Release the brakes and start accelerating when you're in the direction you want to go, just as you would on your motorcycle. And it's very light pressure on the brake, but if you're on that brake in the middle of the turn, if you had to really slow down, just press down a little bit more. Don't stomp on it, don't grab it, snatch it, just like you wouldn't do on a motorcycle. Always look through the turns as far ahead as possible in your car as well as on your motorcycle. Think of your steering wheel as your lean angle. As you're coming around a curve and you turn the steering wheel, very similar to when the motorcycle is leaning. Don't accelerate until your handlebars or your steering wheel is pointed straight ahead. Next, I'll take the motorcycle through the exact same set of curves, and I'll be doing the exact same thing with the motorcycle. I'll be looking as far ahead as possible. I'll be looking through the turns and doing my best to straighten out those turns with the motorcycle. Depending on the pace I'm going, I may or may not need to use any kind of trail braking, but it is always a good idea, and I've learned this just recently. You never stop learning when it comes to riding a motorcycle. I've found that going into any kind of a curve with just the little bit of front brake on, at least covering that front brake, you want to use about 1%. That means that the calipers or the pads are just barely touching the calipers. If your hand is already on there, the chances of you stabbing that brake or grabbing it and causing yourself problems are not going to happen, especially if you practice it both in your motorcycle and in your car. Here I'm heading for the curve. My speed is such that I really don't need any brake, but I am covering that brake and maybe have 1% of that brake on. Again, looking far ahead. The further ahead you look, the better. There won't be any surprises that way. Remember that 12-second rule. Now I'm approaching a curve. Again, my pace is such that I could roll off the throttle just a bit. As I get into this curve, I'm going a little quicker. So yeah, I'm pressing just slightly on that front brake. Once the handlebars are pointed straight ahead, I could start accelerating again. You don't want to be accelerating hard when those handlebars are turned or when the bike is leaning over. Here's that decreasing radius turn I showed you in the car. And here I'm positioning myself properly for the turn. I'm looking through the turns, using my head and eyes, and looking to the left because that's where I want to go. I don't accelerate until the motorcycle is pointed straight ahead. Just as I did in the car, as I approach the curve, I downshift, looking as far around the curve as possible, positioning myself for the best view, not accelerating until the handlebars are pointed straight ahead and the bike is no longer leaning. Now, most people, will drive a car much more often, will put much more mileage on their car or truck than they would on a motorcycle. So while you're in the car, think about these things. Practice while you're driving your car. The more you practice, the better you're going to get at these proper techniques, and the better motorcycle rider you'll be, and the better driver you're going to be. Try using a little trail braking in your car. See what it does. Notice how the front end dips down and you get a lot of traction on those front tires. It's going to work the same way on your motorcycle. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you learned something.